20th of July, 2024 at 3:33 p.m. here in Snohomish, Washington, United States of America. Welcome once again to our cosmic journey, the story of a lowly dev and a lowly designer charting their way through making the world's best astrology software. This is designer Jake. That is engineer Trey. Hello, Trey.
Hello, Jake. Did you make that up on the fly? That was amazing.
I did. I've decided to, just wing it here.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's super warm here, much like it is in the rest of the world probably right now. And so you're getting a little bit more skin than you probably bargained for. We'll see what that does to the viewership metrics. I'm thinking it's going to go whoop, whoop, whoop.
I mean, we're still wearing shirts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We weren't a few minutes ago, but
you make an excellent point, which is we are still wearing some amount of clothing. If you want to see more clothing, feel free to let us know in the comments below. If you want to see less clothing, I don't know who you are, what kind of pervert you think you are. But again, let us know below. Come on.
I think YouTube is going to strike us now
for talking about our lack of clothing. Or today is called Bug Anatomy. It is episode 44. That means that we have just finished iteration 44 on our journey to making the world's best astrology software. Trey has a check-in today, and then there's going to be a lot of dev demos, and we're going to have a discussion around bugs. What do bugs mean? How do they manifest? What do we do about them? What's our philosophy around them? Myself, and thinking about this, I think the last time that I wore a tank top on screen was probably episode 1. You can see that up there. And you'll have to let me know what the fitness looks like between then and now. I don't know. We'll just see. I'll look myself. You don't have to look. But it was super sunny. It was a summer day, and I was warm. And I think I had just come from the gym, actually. Anyways, enough about me. Mr. Henry, it is your check-in question. Why don't you let us know what we're checking in about?
Yeah, okay. So today's check-in question is the theoretical trans-Saturnian point of Jake Zukowski has what glyph?
The theoretical trans-Saturnian point of Jake Zukowski has what glyph? Okay. Well, Jake was of one time a map maker because he believed that he was going to be a civil engineer or an urban planner, and turned away from that to become the world-renowned, beautiful, tank-topped designer that you see today. And so I think what it's going to be is it's going to be a roadway. Okay, so there's like two lines and a dashed line that turns into a brush. That would be my trans-Saturnian Jake Zukowski special point that I would be exhibiting. What about you? What's your Trey Henry point look like?
So I think for me it would be combining the two things that I do. So it would be.
And what is that? Eating and pooping. Sleeping. You forgot sleeping as well. No, what are the two things that you do?
Paying taxes.
Actually,
taxes. I don't pay taxes. You pay taxes.
Yeah, someone in this household pays taxes, and it's not Trey Henry.
So sorcery and software engineering, obviously. So I think a little it's like a little wizard hat, like a little stylized wizard hat, and then underneath the wizard hat is just a 1 and a 0.
Ah, okay. I would want to combine those in a way that makes it more of a unified kind of symbol, but I like where you're going. It's something worth critiquing later. We can discuss that off camera, because we do need to go to the driving range to hit balls from a place into an ether that does not matter, into another place. That's very important that we have to do now. Ahead of that, Mr. Henry, demo time. Talk a little bit about what was going on this iteration and what you were thinking about.
Yeah, so this iteration we had mostly stuff that's leading up to what we call the point placement detail card. Mm-hmm. So this is like showing the details of a specific point on the chart. And Jake showed last time the design for what point placement will look like. And so this is like marching our way towards the implementation of that. So I have a couple of things to show on that, and then we'll dig into the bug anatomy part of it. Let's first look at the glyphs. Um,
Ooh.
so one of the as part of that point detail, we show the house that the point might be in. We also show potentially like an aspect between, so like maybe the domicile lord and the planet that is in that zodiacal sign. And we hadn't done anything with aspects yet. So now we have some aspect lifts in here. These are going to probably get tweaked a little bit, but this is mostly in the ballpark. And then we have our house icon. I really like this house icon. This is entirely Jake's invention. I've never seen this before anywhere. And it's just, it's like a little pie graph chart. It's like a little piece of pie, which is like what the houses are. And then a number. I think it's so elegant and beautiful. I think it's really great.
That's essentially what houses are. They're the mundane take, the human take upon how you're going to divide up the sky. Like there is the cosmic take on how you're going to divide up the sky, which is signs, otherwise known as celestial houses. And this is just like humans going in and being like, well, I think we should divide it up like this. The thing that I really like about this icon, just to nerd out about this a little bit, is that there is a game that I think might be a worldwide game, but certainly in the United States, called Trivial Pursuit. And it reminds me a lot of Trivial Pursuit. And that's why
right.
I love these wedges. Yeah.
Yeah, because they give you the wheel, and you had all the different categories, and you put the little pie slices in the wheel.
Which is such a great, it's not even a mechanic. It's just this great little thing. That's why I think that game took off, which is just, it's such a beautifully designed aspect of the game. And that's really what I was trying to do with this.
Yeah. I love that. It plays into like the completionist in everybody of like, I got to get all of the little pieces in this little like pie thing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we now have the start of the speed graph.
Mr. Henry, might I contradict you? One thing that is also missing here, and not that you overlooked it, but it's something new that we are going to do. And I'm going to switch to my screen for a second. So you can see now that we put 2 lines down on the speed graph, including that arrow. So there's the arrow that Trey was talking about. And this dotted white line has been, the dotted white line that was here has been replaced by a gray line. This dotted white line is here. What's going on with this speed graph? Well, dear viewer,
thank you for asking, dear viewer.
Thank you for asking, dear viewer. Let me answer you. And I am fully capable of answering this question because you have set it up perfectly for me. This is the direct or retrograde station point within the speed graph. This here is what the typical speed of that planet is. And so you can easily now see from this, not only is it retrograde or direct, and is it moving towards or away from a station, but also is it moving slow or fast in direct motion compared to its typical speed, which is obviously very important, astrologically speaking.
Yeah, exactly. I love how much information is contained within this one little infographic.
That's the great thing about people who make good infographics that read Edward Tufte's books. If you're not familiar with Edward Tufte, might I ask you to go look at that demonstration video or that intro video? Because Edward Tufte makes the point here that you should only use as much ink as is necessary in order to convey as much data as possible, and try to convey no more and try not to be misleading. And as far as I can tell so far, this is feeling like that, which I'm very happy with.
Yeah. No, I think it's amazing. And the other thing that's really cool about it, this is looking at one line actually of a continuous graph that goes from top to bottom, which is the speed over time.
Yeah, I can show you that too. You just keep talking through it. I'll show it at the same time.
Okay, yeah. So basically, it's when you see this for a point detail, but then in another context, you see the over time detail. That will it all ties together. It makes visual sense, basically.
Yeah, this is that. Yes, got it. Okay, back to you, Mr. Henry.
There's one more thing that I wanted to point out here, which is like super, super geeky, and it's very, very subtle, but I think it really speaks to how much care we put into what we do. So when Jake designed this infographic, he wanted the amount that is filled in for either direct or retrograde motion to have a gradient, and you can see that it has a gradient here. So it's going from a sort of bluish color to a purplish color.
Can you zoom in on this just so we can see it a little bit easier?
Yeah. Oh, good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. And it's going from kind of like the lower left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner. However, what you don't want well, what neither Jake nor I wanted, is
People
for
with
the
taste did not want.
the people polled that have taste have said unanimously that you don't want the gradient to just always end
In the purple.
in the full end point color. And if you look at these two, and this is why there's two variants on here. These are, by the way, the actual values for these bodies in my natal chart. So when you look at the moon here, you can see it's filled in much more purple here, whereas when you look at the Venus here, it's a little bit less. Now, looking at that, you say like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like there's a gradient that goes across the whole thing, and you're just revealing that much of the gradient. Actually implementing this is very difficult, and it would be very easy for us to just say like, yeah, it's fine, we'll just make it a solid color, or like we'll just work around the fact. And I think people who build products with a product team, let's say,
with people that might have
people who call themselves product people.
Yeah, the title of product, exactly.
Yeah, would say like, what's the minimum viable? What can we just put in front of somebody that we know that they would be able to understand it? And if we went with that model, we would not have done this, because it took me probably, I don't know, a couple of hours of work, like extra, just to do this. And by the way, if you're curious about how this is done, just in case you're like a web developer or something, the way that this is being done, because this is all being laid out with just HTML and CSS, is that we're doing a linear interpolation from one color to another color, which are the two color spectrums, and then using the percentage of the fill-in to do the linear interpolation. So I don't want to get into the math of a linear interpolation, but it's basically just a way of saying like, given these values, here's a distance to those values, which is a portion of it.
Yeah.
And we do that with colors, which is a vector of 3 numbers, basically. So anyway, all that to say, it looks great. And this is the kind of the effort and care that we put into the product. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we do say, like, it's good enough. This is one of those things that I was like, I've only ever seen this done the poor way, like Trey was talking about. You have a beginning color and an end color, and then you kind of like move the beginning and end color. And it doesn't, much like I just said about Tufty, if you want someone to look at this thing and kind of immediately in their back brain understand what's going on, showing something as more purple gives you an expectation that it is moving faster than something that is more blue. And if you just always show blue to purple, you then have to take a beat and try to understand what's going on here, which is, you would say, not that big of a deal. But after a bit of time, it's those types of beats that make somebody not like the software that or the product that is being built. And I want make product good people like, please.
Yeah, for sure. It might not be a forebrain thing. Like it could be just a backbrain thing that it's just like, oh, it just feels good. It feels right. It looks right.
Yeah. One of my conditions, just to take a moment here. One of my conditions for, I think, what makes a great designer. There's several things that make a great designer, but one of the conditions that I have for what makes a great designer is you are somehow in touch with your back brain. You can kind of like, not that you can get all the way back there, but you can kind of feel it, and you can bring what's in the back forward. I think that's also how I can probably do that, probably because my moon is sextile with Mercury, and therefore I probably have a lot of ways that I can connect with my emotions and bring my emotions to my front brain. I don't think that every designer needs to have this, but it seems to help. Okay, back to you, sir.
So switching over to a terminal really quick, there's one more thing that I wanted to show, which is that we added traditional essential dignity into the product. So if is this right? Yeah. Okay.
So you're grabbing your chart because you just did a function to grab your chart.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm getting my chart, and then I'm getting the
all the data for your chart
from it, the chart data.
Yep.
And now we're going to get the position of the moon. Like so. We're doing it live. People. Okay. So this is the position of the moon in my chart. And this is all the underlying data. And what I can do is then I can say domicile. So basically I'm going to say, given this position in this chart, which is my natal moon, what is the domicile lord of the placement of my moon?
Who is her domicile lord?
Yeah, so the moon is placed within Taurus, and so Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Um, but another thing that I can do is I can say exaltation, and you'll see that it's the moon because the moon is exalted in Taurus. So my moon is it has a central dignity from exaltation from being in Taurus.
Ah,
And so we have this also for we have face, and we also have
you called it face. You didn't call it.
the deacon.
You didn't call it deacon. It's not a face lord. As much as you
Well,
want
no,
this to
no.
be a face lord, it's never going to be a face lord, sir.
Yeah. But I didn't call the function term lord. I just called it term. So when you're just saying face, like face.
Or you could just say bound.
Well,
That's
no, that's the
fine.
term. So yeah,
Sorry, that's
so
the term. It's the bound.
yeah. So we also have the
The
Egyptian
face is
balance
the
in
deacon.
here.
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to yell at you about this anymore.
You can now get all of this essential dignity information, which will then be used for the point placement card. So that is the end of demo for the most part.
End of demo has happened. Very good.
Okay.
I was just going to say there's one other small thing I wanted to demo. It has nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
You know that we do these cycle stickers, dear viewer, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm very excited about our Cycle 40. It took me a long time to do our Cycle 40 sticker. And the reason why is because A, it's not a top priority, and therefore it doesn't need to be done. And B, I'm cheap and I needed a sticker mule discount in order to buy it because that's how I am. But I am happy to say, yeah, trust me, this is how we roll. Anything, I guess I'm a freegan, but with everything. So I present to you, dear viewer, the Cycle 40 sticker, which is based upon, I believe, Cycle 39's video, which I think was like Back to the Chart Future or something like that.
Oh yeah.
This is the 50s hot rod space astrology car. And I'm very excited to get this in a sticker form. And we usually just put this on our computer. Okay.
I love it. I love that sticker. It's gonna go great. Do you know what size it's gonna be? Like, how big is it gonna be?
It's about 3 by 2 inches.
Ooh, nice.
So,
Beefy sticker.
you know what we could do? We could put Verdo in the car.
In the car?
We could cut Verdo out and make him like drive the car. I might try to do that. Do you want to talk a little bit about your philosophy point about bugs?
Yeah. Let's do that before this video becomes too long.
21 minutes, already too long. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good one, gentle viewer. I think you're going to really enjoy it because there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes of making software, obviously. And I think at this point, almost anybody, even if you're not really into technology, I think you probably have a pretty good idea of what a software flaw is and have maybe seen reports of bugs, things like this. So I think this was something that I think pretty much everybody is familiar with at this point.
Well, especially now, because I believe that there was a piece of code that was pushed out by, I can't remember the name of it, but basically crippled healthcare airlines.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And it's all amazing to be like, how did we have the single point of failure for this worldwide IT disaster? So I think the viewer this week is
in particular probably has an understanding of.
I'm going to look that up while you talk. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. So we had a bug in Cosmic, and you are looking at a screenshot of it right now. So you're looking at the impact of the bug, and so one of the things that will sometimes happen when you find a flaw in the software is you might discover it while doing something else or while working on something else or whatever, and you just need to capture it. And so I captured this, I just took a screenshot of it. I opened this ticket. I said, I was moving through time. Here's what I saw. And then a little screenshot of like what was actually going on within the markup of the SVG, showing that there's actually like all of these duplicates were there. And so we moved this bug into implementation, and this is me basically slowly working through the bug. And you can see from this scroll bar over here that there is a lot of information that was put in here. And one of the things that I really wanted, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up was because with any time that you're working through something like a software bug, there's kind of two pieces to it. One is the initial filing of the bug. So like in this particular case, I just filed the bug with a screenshot. And I didn't actually have at the beginning of this the ability to reproduce it. It seemed to be happening sort of randomly. So I started basically kind of like narrowing in, trying to get to the point of having a reproduction of the bug, because without the ability to reproduce it, it's very, very difficult to figure out what's going on. Once I was able to actually sort of narrow in a little bit on what the issue might be, or at least get to the point where I could reproduce it relatively reliably, I noticed that the data that was being used to render the chart did not actually reflect what was in the chart. And this made me very worried, because I started to think that perhaps in our technology stack for what we're using to actually display the chart, that there might have been an issue there, so that we were doing the right thing within Cosmic's software, but that the chart itself was, that the rendering of the chart was had issues because of the underlying technology stack that we use. And then I had a little bit of a breakthrough when I got a much more specific case to reproduce, which is that I figured out that if you start with this particular time and date, and then you go forward by 1 month, you will always have Saturn, the Sun, and the North Node and Neptune duplicated. And then a kind of another cool thing is that because we have this ability within, even though it's not in the UI yet, we have this thing called perspectives. And then I was able to basically say, from the perspective, I only want to look at just these points, which are creating the problem. So reduce all of the noise in the chart, and then reproduce it there. So this is screenshots of it being reproduced, and here are the duplicates. And then once I had this, then the next thing that I could do, and this is a very important part of solving issues in software, is that I wrote a test. So before I ever even tried to fix the actual underlying issue, now that I had a reproduction of it that I could do manually myself in the software, the next thing that I did was I wrote what's called a unit test, and I reproduced this problem by writing a test, and then showed that the test would expect that when you have these 5 points on the chart and you go from this place to this place, or from this time to this time, that you would still have the same number of points. You'd have 5 points instead of 8 points, for example. And so I wrote this test, and then I demonstrated that, in fact, the test fails, which is what you would expect, because it's still broken. But now the cool thing is that as I start to work on fixing the bug, I can just run this test, and I can say, okay, now this bug is fixed once this test passes.
Yeah.
So then I started working on it, and then this isn't actually captured here really, but when I got to a certain point in working on it, and this particular bug actually passed, and I thought that I had the issue completely fixed. But then I ran the full suite of tests, and there was actually another test that broke because my fix actually didn't account for another case. And because I already had a test for that test failed, which prevented us from regressing in the quality of our software. And so then I was able to fix it fully, and then issue is now fixed. The part of the product that actually failed here is in how we how we group the icons together so that we can separate them. And you'll notice that all of this is happening between Aries and Pisces, because Aries 0 is the start of the 360-degree circle of an astrological chart. And that 0-degree boundary and items on either side of that 0-degree boundary is actually where this bug was. So that was another little clue that was in there that I didn't see at the very beginning, but then I did see later on. So anyway, I just wanted to like poke at this and kind of talk about it and show, just a little bit about like software flaws and kind of how we approach them and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think what happens is, I just looked it up, it's called CrowdStrike. And I think what happens is when you see a global IT outage like CrowdStrike, not CloudStrike, CrowdStrike, and then you see that. What's that?
Sorry, I just that's the software company that introduced this flaw that caused airlines and healthcare providers and all of these other things to crash.
And if you're not familiar with technology, you might say things like, how come one piece of code can take so many things out? How come there's these interdependencies in our world about this? How can one company like Microsoft have so much of the so much of their software and the infrastructure of things that one small change can cause these ripple effects. And like we had our own little crowd strike ourselves with this error because it was coming up intermittently. We couldn't get a repro, as Trey said, a reproduction of the error, and it was really difficult to figure out. And the best that we can do is write a lot of tests to make sure that when we put these pieces of changes in, that it doesn't affect things that we've already done or things that are in the past. This is called like a regression or something like that. And that's really all we can do here. And just to know that like technology is very interconnected. The world is very interconnected. You might feel like everything is interconnected in this world from a human perspective, and that's true. We live in a global community now, and when one thing falls apart, there could be cascading effects. That same thing happens in technology all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And even for us, like we have this full technology stack. Like I pointed out in the bug, that I was worried that it was actually in the rendering of like Phoenix or Live View or something that we use that we don't have any actual control over. And sometimes that does happen. Like something that you're doing in your software actually triggers something in another piece of software that you're using that is unexpected.
Right.
And sometimes you have to work around those things, or sometimes you have to file a bug with the people that run that thing. And fortunately, like the Elixir Phoenix community is very good, and we could absolutely do that. But in this particular case, it just turned out that the issue was with us and not with the underlying stack. But everybody who had this outage because of this software flaw, I'm sure we're very surprised to find out that was in their dependency chain.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to do two things, dear viewer, as we wrap up this episode. Number one, do not fall for any CrowdStrike outage scams. I'm sure they're calling you right now. Don't pay anyone any money for anything that they're telling you to do. They're not from Microsoft. Don't do it, number one. Number two, in a more positive note, what I would like you to do today is make up a pun. Take a pun, just listen to what someone says, turn it into a pun, even if it's terrible, and make somebody, laugh or guffaw or give you a look like you're crazy. And until next time,
or laugh at it yourself.
Or laugh at it yourself, which is what Mr. Henry does with his jokes. Until next time, have yourself a lovely weekend or a lovely day, whatever day you're watching this video. We will see you again very soon. We love you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.